He was ordered to destroy her, but instead, he fell in love with the enemy. The city used to glow once, New San Angeles, they called it. Now it just hums like a tired machine refusing to die. The air smells like rust and ozone, and the neon signs flicker through the haze like ghosts. Corporal Jace Hunter trudged down the cracked street in his exosuit, his helmet reflecting the faded skyline. His HUD showed movement, faint, delicate. Not hostile, but not human either. "Command, this is Patrol Unit Delta 7, Jace said, voice rough with static. "I got life signs in Sector 12. "Unknown type," the radio hissed. "Copy that, Delta 7. Stay sharp. Last report showed alien refugees moving through that zone. Engage only if provoked." "Yeah," Jace muttered. "Always the same rule. Don't shoot unless they breathe wrong." He pushed forward, weapon lowered but ready. The light from his visor scanned the corridor ahead. And that's when he saw her. She wasn't like the others, not tall, gray, and distant like the usual alien refugees. Her form was almost human, smooth lavender skin, faint bioluminescence tracing her veins like glowing tattoos. Her eyes, bright and unguarded, locked on his. For a moment he froze. "Don't move," he said sharply, raising his rifle halfway. She tilted her head. Her voice was soft, musical, yet trembling, like she'd practiced human speech. "If I move, will you kill me, soldier?" The words hit him like a shockwave. There was no fear in them, just exhaustion. He lowered the rifle an inch. "That depends. You carrying anything illegal?" "Weapons, tech!" "No," she interrupted gently. "Just memories. And they're heavier than weapons." Jace exhaled through his teeth. "Cute line. Doesn't change the fact you're in a restricted zone." She took a cautious step closer. The dim light fell across her face, and he realized she was bleeding from a cut along her cheek, deep but clean. "You need med care," he said, trying to sound detached. Her eyes softened. "You sound like you care." Jace shook his head, pretending not to. "Regulation says I report you, but I can patch you up before extraction." Her lips curved faintly. Humans and their rules. He ignored the spark of warmth that stirred inside him, something he hadn't felt in years. Maybe it was loneliness, maybe curiosity. As he knelt and opened his med pack, she whispered something that froze his hands. "You shouldn't help me," she said softly. "If your command finds out, they'll punish you." Jace looked up, meeting her eyes through the visor. "Yeah, well, punishment's kind of my middle name." For the first time, she smiled. Fragile, luminous, alive. And right there, under the broken streetlight, Jace knew this patrol wasn't going to end by the book. As the sirens began to echo from the far edge of the city, she leaned close and whispered, "If they find us together, they'll kill you first." And somehow that sounded less like a warning and more like a promise. The sirens wailed in the distance, sharp, mechanical cries that cut through the smoky air. Jace's instincts screamed to report in, to call for backup. But something in her eyes, that strange blend of fear and defiance, told him if he did, she wouldn't survive long enough to explain herself. He killed his comm-link with a quick tap. "Name," he demanded quietly. "You got one?" She hesitated, the glow in her veins pulsing slower. "Lyra," she said finally. "From the Ellerin colonies." Ellerin. Jace swallowed hard. That explained her. The Ellerin were one of the species blamed for the Battle of Titans. Gate, the one that killed his entire squad. He should have hated her. Every part of him should have, but hate wasn't what he felt. Not tonight. "All right, Lyra," he muttered, tearing open a med patch. "Hold still." When his glove brushed her skin, his sensors glitched for a split second. Her biology messed with his suit's readings, heart rate spiking, neural feedback jumping. But what caught him off guard was the warmth of her skin. Aliens weren't supposed to feel human. She flinched slightly as he pressed the patch to her cheek. "Your hands," she murmured. "You tremble when you touch me." He chuckled dryly. "Yeah, maybe it's 'cause you're glowing like a damn light stick." Her laugh, soft and breathy, echoed faintly in the dark. It had been years since Jace heard something that wasn't a scream or an order. "You're far from your patrol route," Lyra said, her tone turning curious. "What do you guard here?" "Nothing worth guarding," he admitted. "Just ruins and memories." She tilted her head. "Then why do you stay?" "Because that's what soldiers do," he said flatly. We stay where we're told. She stepped closer again, close enough for the faint light of her veins to dance across his armor. And if your heart tells you otherwise? He froze. She shouldn't ask questions like that. She shouldn't even be here. But she was. And the question hit harder than any command ever had. He turned away, scanning the street. We should move. Patrol drones sweep this area every 15 minutes. Lyra nodded. Then let's move, soldier. Her voice had softened, not pleading, just trusting. Against all sense, he motioned her to follow. They slipped through alleys lined with burnt metal and shattered screens, the hum of old neon flickering like dying stars. Every step Jace took beside her felt like walking a tightrope over a black pit. One wrong move and he'd fall, lose his rank, his freedom, maybe his life. But when she glanced at him with those shimmering violet eyes, he wondered if maybe that fall would be worth it. They stopped at an old checkpoint, abandoned years ago. Jace keyed the door, letting them in. Inside, dust swirled under a single flickering bulb. Lyra looked around. You trust me enough to bring me here? He sighed. Trust isn't the word. Let's call it a bad decision with good timing. She smiled in that same fragile, dangerous smile and whispered, Sometimes bad decisions make us feel alive again, human. Outside, a patrol drone hovered past the window, scanning for heat signatures. Lyra reached for his hand and whispered, Don't breathe. And in that electric silence, Jace realized she wasn't the only one being hunted. The drone's hum rattled the broken windows. Its red scanning beam cut through the dust, moving slowly across the room. Jace's pulse slammed against his ribs. He'd survived gunfire, orbital strikes, ambushes, but this was the kind of silence that killed men. Lyra's hand was still wrapped around his. Her skin radiated warmth, faintly buzzing like static electricity. For one long heartbeat, it was just them, a human soldier and an alien girl, holding still between life and death. The beam passed. The drone drifted away into the night. Jace exhaled quietly, the breath fogging his visor. You almost got us lit up, he muttered. Lyra tilted her head. You're the one who brought me here, remember? He grunted, stepping back to the console. The old systems flickered to life, blue light washing over his armor. He began scanning for outgoing frequencies. No pings, no trackers. Good. Okay, he said, looks like we're clear. But that won't last. Lyra leaned against the wall, watching him. You speak like someone who's always waiting for something to go wrong. He gave her a sideways look. That's 'cause it usually does. She smiled faintly, almost sad. Humans live like they're already dying. Jace ignored the comment and unsealed his helmet. Cool air hit his face, the metallic tang stinging his throat. Lyra's eyes widened slightly. Maybe it was the first time she'd seen his face. You're younger than I expected, she murmured. Yeah, he said. And you're way too calm for someone bleeding on my floor. She chuckled softly, brushing the wound. Pain is different from my kind. It's just noise. He sat down on a crate, rubbing his temples. You Ilaren always talk in riddles? She walked closer, her steps silent. We learned from you humans. You hide feelings behind jokes. Jace looked up sharply. What do you know about feelings? She didn't flinch. Enough to recognize when someone is afraid to feel them. That one landed, deep. He looked away, jaw tightening. You don't know me. No, she said quietly. But I can hear your heartbeat through your armor. It's loud, restless, like it's searching for something it lost. He didn't answer. Couldn't. Outside, the wind howled through the ruined streets, carrying whispers of static and old memories. Lyra crouched beside him. Tell me, Jace Hunter, she said softly. What did you lose? He stared at the floor, a ghost of a smile crossing his lips. Everyone, he said. My squad, my family. My reason. Her expression softened. Then maybe that's why you found me. He barked a laugh. You talk like fate's real. Maybe it is, she whispered. Or maybe it's just need. Their eyes met, his raw, hers glowing faintly violet. The air between them buzzed like charged wire. Then the console beeped sharply, an incoming signal. Jace spun, reading the data. His blood ran cold. Command's tracking my suit, he said, voice low. They know I've gone dark. Lyra's expression turned grave. Then they're coming. He nodded grimly. Yeah, and they'll kill us both if they find you here. Lyra stepped closer, eyes glowing brighter. Then run with me, human, she whispered. He stared at her, knowing that crossing that line meant betraying everything he swore to protect. And yet, for the first time in years, he wanted to. The word run echoed in his mind like an alarm he couldn't shut off. Every instinct in Jace's body screamed no. Soldiers don't run. They follow orders. They die where they're told. But Lyra was already halfway to the door, her glowing veins cutting through the darkness like ribbons of starlight. Jace, she said, voice low but urgent. They'll be here in minutes. You stay, you die. He stood frozen for a second, helmet in his hands. The comm light blinked red, re-incoming ping. Command was calling. If he answered, they'd trace him. If he ignored it, they'd brand him rogue. He jammed the helmet back on and cursed. Damn it, Lyra. What the hell are you pulling me into? She glanced back, her expression unreadable. You saved me. That means you've already chosen. He didn't want to admit it, but maybe she was right. The moment he decided not to report her, his path was set. The checkpoint door hissed open, the sound slicing through the silence. Cold night air rushed in, carrying the distant whir of engines. Drones, lots of them. North route, he said quickly. Less surveillance near the refinery tunnels. Lyra nodded, slipping into the shadows as he followed. Their footsteps echoed down empty streets, boots crunching over broken glass. Hey, Jace muttered, you got any idea why Command's after you? Her answer came soft, almost hesitant. Because I'm not supposed to exist. He frowned. That's not an answer. She kept walking, her hair catching the neon light. My kind signed the peace treaty 5 years ago. But I'm not part of that. I was made in a lab, part of a hybrid experiment they shut down. Jace's stomach twisted. You mean human and Alaran DNA? Lyra nodded once. They called us the Bridge. Said we could end the war forever if we learned to live as one. He slowed down. Jesus. You're saying you were engineered to connect two species. And instead, she said bitterly, they decided to erase us. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The city groaned around them. The broken skeleton of a planet trying to forget its own sins. Jace exhaled. Guess that explains the kill orders. She looked at him. And yet you still came with me. He smirked faintly. Guess I'm bad at following orders. They turned a corner and froze. 3 armored drones hovered ahead, scanning beams sweeping the street. Down! Jace hissed, pulling her behind a wrecked car. The drones' lights buzzed inches over their heads. Lyra grabbed his wrist. You can't fight them. Their sensors lock on movement. He glanced around, mind racing. His eyes caught a rusted service hatch on the wall nearby. There, we move on my mark. The drones rotated, their beams shifting left. Now, Jace whispered. They sprinted across the street, slamming the hatch shut behind them just as a laser pulse scorched the air where they'd stood. Inside the tunnel, it was dark, damp, and endless. Their breathing filled the silence. Lyra leaned against the wall, catching her breath. You risked your life for me again. Jace gave a short laugh. Don't flatter yourself, princess. I'm just bad at dying. But when she smiled, small, tired, real, he knew he'd do it again. As they descended deeper into the tunnels, Jace's comm lit up with a new signal, encrypted, urgent. A voice whispered through the static. Hunter, stand down. She's not who you think she is. He froze, staring at Lyra's silhouette in the dark. If Command was right, who was she really? The static faded, but the voice still echoed in Jace's helmet. Low, deliberate and familiar. Hunter, this is Commander Rains. Do not engage with the fugitive. Repeat, she's not a Laren. She's an engineered mimic. You're being compromised. Jace froze mid-step. His pulse spiked. Rains, his old commanding officer, never used that tone unless the situation was beyond critical. He glanced at Lyra, who stood a few feet ahead, her glow faint in the tunnel's blackness. Mimic? He whispered under his breath. She turned, hearing the word even without comms. What did they say? Nothing, he lied, killing the audio feed with a quick tap. She frowned. You're hiding something. Jace tightened his grip on the rifle. And you're not telling me everything either. The silence between them grew heavier than the air. He could hear water dripping, the faint hum of old power conduits buried beneath the city. Lyra stepped closer, her eyes catching what little light there was. I didn't lie to you, Jace. I told you I was made. You just didn't ask what for. He swallowed hard. All right, then I'm asking now. What for? She hesitated, her hand brushing the tunnel wall as if grounding herself. The Alaran scientists wanted peace, but your human generals wanted control. They built me to understand both species, to learn what each side fears, what each side desires. So you're a spy, he said sharply. No, she said quickly. I'm not programmed to kill. I'm programmed to connect. He shook his head. Yeah, well, Command says you're a mimic. Means you can copy appearance, voice, maybe even thoughts. Her expression broke. You think I copied this? She stepped closer, pressing her hand to his chest plate. You think what you feel right now is just a reflection? Jace's throat tightened. He wanted to pull away. He didn't. I don't know what the hell to think anymore. Then listen to yourself, she whispered. Not them. Her glow dimmed slightly, sadness flickering across her face. You humans say we're emotionless, but your eyes, they hide more pain than any species I've ever met. He looked away, the words cutting deep. Before he could answer, the tunnel shuddered. Distant booms echoed, explosions. Command's closing in, Jace muttered, checking his visor. They're using seismic charges to flush us out. Lyra's jaw tightened. They'll destroy the tunnels. Hundreds of refugees hide down here. He cursed softly. They don't care. Orders are orders. Her eyes flared bright violet. Then we break their orders. He looked at her, the weight of her words slamming into him like gravity itself. You don't get it, Lyra. If I go against Command, I'm a dead man. She reached up, fingertips brushing his cheek plate. Then die living. The sentence hit him harder than any explosion could. In that moment, something inside him cracked, the soldier giving way to the man beneath. He nodded slowly. All right, we do this your way. Lyra's lips curved into a small, almost disbelieving smile. You'll help me? Jace chambered a round in his rifle. Yeah, but after this, you tell me everything. As they pushed deeper into the tunnels, a new light flickered ahead. Not blue or violet, but crimson. Lyra froze, her face draining of color. That's not human tech, she whispered. That's Alaran. And suddenly Jace realized they weren't alone down here. The red light pulsed from deeper in the tunnel, slow, rhythmic, like a heartbeat. The air turned heavy with static, and Jace could taste iron in his mouth. He tightened his grip on the rifle. Alaran tech, huh? Thought they were gone from this sector, he muttered. Lyra's glow dimmed almost completely now, her face half lit by the flickering crimson ahead. They shouldn't be here, she whispered. If they are, it means they know I'm alive. Then let's hope they don't know I am, Jace said, moving forward cautiously. The tunnel opened into a vast underground chamber. Old transport station, maybe. Long abandoned. Rusted tracks disappeared into black water, and in the center of it all, hovering above the cracked floor, was a sphere of red energy, humming, alive and unstable. Lyra stopped dead, her expression torn between fear and awe. That's an Alaran relay core, she breathed. They used those to communicate during the war. But this one, it's active. Means someone's using it, Jace said grimly. Before he could scan it, a voice echoed through the chamber, melodic and cold. We warned you not to run, Lyra. Jace swung his rifle up instantly. From the shadows stepped 3 Alaran figures, taller than Lyra, draped in dark armor that shimmered like glass. Their eyes glowed the same crimson as the relay. Lyra took a step back. You're not supposed to be here. The lead Alaran tilted his head. Neither are you, hybrid. You were meant to be erased. Jace moved in front of her, weapon aimed. Back off, Glowstick. She's under my protection. The alien regarded him calmly. A human soldier protecting a weapon of mass manipulation? How poetic. Weapon? Jace spat. She's a person. The Alaran smiled faintly. You think she's one of you? She's built to mimic your emotions, your empathy. Every word she says is programmed to make you trust her. Lyra's voice trembled. That's a lie. Is it? The Alaran asked. Do you even know who created you, child? She looked stricken. I was told I came from the Peace Division. Peace? The alien laughed, a harsh metallic sound. You were born in the labs under, Titan's Gate. You were designed by humans to infiltrate us. Jace's blood ran cold. That's impossible. Command said. Lyra shook her head violently. No, he's trying to divide us. But doubt was a slow poison, and Jace could already feel it burning. He wanted to believe her, needed to. Yet the puzzle pieces were falling in all the wrong ways. The Alaran raised his arm, the relay flaring brighter. Come with us, Lyra. You can still fulfill your purpose. Or stay with the human and die with him. Jace raised his rifle. Yeah, come try me. Lyra's hand shot out, grabbing his arm. No, Jace, she cried. If you fire, they'll activate the relay. It'll bring the whole structure down. He gritted his teeth, eyes locked on the enemy. So what, we just stand here and let them take you? Her voice shook. No, we run. She reached for his hand again, same as before. But this time her grip was desperate, trembling. Together, they bolted for the far tunnel as the relay's hum rose into a screaming pitch. The Alaran shouted behind them, words in a language Jace didn't understand. And red energy burst across the walls. The tunnel erupted with light. Jace grabbed Lyra and dove, the explosion chasing them like a storm of fire and thunder. They hit the ground hard, the world spinning in dust and heat. Jace opened his eyes just in time to see Lyra lying still beside him, her glow fading fast. And for the first time, he wasn't sure if she was alive or just another illusion. The world rang like a broken bell. Smoke filled the tunnel, burning Jace's throat as he crawled through rubble and twisted metal. His armor systems were screaming, damage alerts, oxygen loss, comms offline. But none of that mattered. He spotted Lyra lying a few feet away, half buried under debris, her faint glow pulsing weakly through the dust. Lyra! He shouted, dragging himself toward her. He shoved a concrete beam off her chest and pressed 2 fingers to her neck. Warm, faint heartbeat. Relief washed through him like a wave. Come on, he muttered. Don't you die on me now. Her eyelids fluttered and she drew in a shaky breath. You stayed? Yeah, he said, trying to grin even though his voice cracked. You think I'm the type to bail mid-apocalypse? She smiled faintly, blood running down her temple, glowing faintly blue instead of red. Humans always so stubborn. He pulled out a stim patch and slapped it onto her neck. Save your compliments for when we're not getting hunted by interdimensional light bulbs. Lyra tried to sit up, wincing. The relay core, it destabilized. If it fully ruptures, it'll destroy this entire sector. Great, Jace muttered. So we've got homicidal aliens and a ticking bomb. My favorite combo. He stood scanning the smoke-filled corridor. His HUD was half fried, but a faint heat signature flickered deeper down the tunnel. Movement. We're not alone, he said. Lyra's head snapped up. More Alaran? Too small a reading, he replied. Maybe a survivor. As they moved, the walls shook with distant echoes of collapsing steel. The city above them was dying. They turned a corner and froze. A young girl, human, maybe 12, was crouched beside a pile of wreckage, her hands glowing faintly blue. She looked terrified but alive. When she saw them, she stumbled back. Don't come closer. Jace raised his hands. Easy, kid. We're not with command. Lyra stepped forward slowly, her voice soft. It's all right. We won't hurt you. The girl's eyes widened when she saw Lyra's glow. You're one of them. She's not, Jace said firmly. She's with me. The girl hesitated, then pointed toward the collapsed chamber behind her. My brother's trapped. The ceiling fell on him when the red light exploded. Jace looked at Lyra, and she nodded instantly. They ran to the wreckage and started lifting chunks of debris. The air was thick with dust and heat. Kid, Jace grunted, get back. This thing could cave again. Together they managed to pull a half-conscious boy free. Lyra knelt beside him, placing her glowing hands over his chest. The light pulsed brighter, pure white this time, and the boy gasped, color returning to his face. Jace stared. You can heal? Lyra nodded weakly. I wasn't supposed to use it. But I couldn't just let him die. The girl looked up at her with awe. You're an angel. Lyra smiled sadly. No, little one. Just a mistake that learned to care. Jace swallowed hard, watching her. Every word she spoke made it harder to believe she was just some experiment. But before he could say anything, his helmet crackled, static returning faint and broken. "Hunter, come in. We have eyes on your signal. Stand down. Extraction inbound." His stomach dropped. Command had found him. Lyra's expression turned cold. "They're coming." "Yeah," Jace said, checking his rifle. "And this time they're not here to talk." The tunnel lights flickered as the sound of marching boots filled the air, metallic. Disciplined, merciless. Lyra looked at him and whispered, "If they take me, they'll turn me back into what I was made to be." And Jace finally said what he'd been afraid to. "Then they'll have to kill me first." The tunnel vibrated with the rhythm of marching boots. Dozens, maybe hundreds. Jace's visor pinged multiple signals. "Command Task Force. Extraction Unit 04. Extraction, his ass. They weren't coming to rescue. They were coming to erase. He pulled Lyra behind a collapsed archway, his rifle aimed at the tunnel entrance. "They're closing in fast. You got anything that can jam their scanners?" Lyra shook her head, her glow faint but steady. "No, my biosignature's locked to their systems. They'll track me anywhere." "Then we make 'em regret finding us," Jace said, checking his last mag. "Only 6 rounds left, not nearly enough." Lyra touched his wrist. "You don't have to do this, Jace. If I go back, maybe they'll let you live." He looked at her, the faint shimmer of her eyes, the tremor in her voice, and laughed bitterly. "You really think they'd let a soldier who disobeyed orders just walk away?" She didn't answer. Her silence said everything. The noise grew louder. Red targeting beams swept across the walls as armored soldiers poured into view, faceless, mechanical, efficient. Jace recognized the insignia on their armor. Human Defense Command. His own people. "Delta 7!" A voice shouted through a loudspeaker. "By order of Commander Rains, you are relieved of duty. Step away from the fugitive and surrender immediately." Jace's gut twisted. Rains, the man who trained him, the man who turned him into a weapon. Lyra looked at him, eyes shimmering. "They won't stop, Jace, not until I'm gone." He chambered his rifle, every muscle tense. "Then we make 'em earn it." The first flashbang hit. White light and thunder rolled through the tunnel. Jace fired back blindly, dropping 2 soldiers before diving behind cover. Lyra crouched beside him, palms glowing as she formed a thin barrier of light that shimmered like liquid glass. Bullets hit it, slowed, melted into sparks. Jace stared. "Since when can you do that?" Her voice was strained. "Since now. But it won't last long." "Good," he said, swapping mags. "We don't need long." The soldiers regrouped. Plasma bolts tore through the darkness. One struck near Lyra, sending her sprawling. Her glow flickered dangerously. "Lyra!" He grabbed her, pulling her behind a steel beam. Blood, bright blue, stained his gloves. "I told you," she gasped. "They'll kill you for this." He grinned, cracked and weary. "Wouldn't be the first time Command tried." A loudspeaker boomed again. "Hunter, you've been compromised. That thing beside you isn't alive. It's a construct. Don't throw your life away for a machine." Lyra's eyes filled with something almost human, hurt. "A machine," she whispered. Jace stood up, rage boiling through him. "You call her a machine, but she's got more heart than anyone in that bunker of yours." He fired again, 1, 2, 3 precise shots. The soldiers scattered, but more poured in. There was no winning this. Lyra grabbed his arm. "There's another way." He turned. "What way?" "The relay core," she said weakly. "If I connect to it, I can wipe their tracking network." "But it'll overload my system." Jace's jaw clenched. "Meaning?" She met his gaze, steady, resigned. "Meaning I don't walk out." He shook his head instantly. "No, hell no." She placed a glowing hand on his cheek plate. "Jace, please. If you want the world to stop chasing what it doesn't understand, let me do this." The firefight raged around them, but in that moment, all he saw was her, trembling, glowing, alive in ways no machine ever could be. He lowered his weapon slowly. "If you do this, I'm staying with you." Lyra smiled, the kind that breaks something inside a man. "You always were terrible at following orders." The relay chamber loomed ahead, pulsing red like the heart of a dying star. Lyra stepped toward it, light gathering around her fingertips, and whispered, "If I go dark, remember what I said, human. We'd have made beautiful children." And Jace knew. This was the moment he'd have to choose between duty and love. The relay chamber was a cathedral of light and static. Cables hung like vines from the ceiling, sparks dripping from broken conduits. In the center stood the relay core, a glowing sphere the size of a truck, pulsing in sync with the city's dying heartbeat. Jace helped Lyra to her feet. Her skin flickered with fading energy, her form barely holding. "You sure this'll work?" he asked, voice raw. She smiled faintly. "I'm not sure of anything anymore, human, but it's our only shot." He looked around, motion sensors blinking red, voices echoing through comms. The extraction team was minutes away. "Okay," he said, steadying his rifle. "You do what you gotta do. I'll hold the line." Lyra stepped forward, placing her hands on the glowing sphere. The moment she touched it, the whole room trembled. Her body glowed white, streams of data rushing from her fingertips into the core. The system screamed, alarms blaring, metal walls shaking. Unauthorized access detected. System override in progress. "Lyra!" Jace shouted over the noise. "They'll trace the signal. They cut it off." She didn't move. Her voice echoed, distorted, carried by the relay. "If I stop now, they'll just rebuild it. This has to be permanent." He ran to her, grabbing her shoulders. Her skin burned like plasma beneath his gloves, but he didn't care. "You'll fry yourself!" Lyra looked up at him through the light. "It's okay. This body was never meant to last." Jace's heart hammered. He didn't care what she was, alien, machine, miracle. She was real to him. He'd seen her laugh, bleed, hope. That was all that mattered. The comm in his helmet buzzed. Commander Raines's voice cut through. "Jace, don't be stupid. Step away from that thing and you'll live. You do this, you're done. Court-martial, execution, everything." He ripped the comm from his ear and threw it against the wall. "I already died the day I stopped feeling." Then turning to Lyra, he whispered, "You don't have to do this alone." She smiled softly. "Yes, I do. But you can help me finish it." Jace stepped behind her, wrapping his arms around her waist, pressing his hands over hers on the core. The sphere flared, a storm of white energy swirling around them. He felt it, memories flooding into his mind. Her childhood on a ruined planet, the experiments, the pain of being treated like a weapon, her loneliness, endless, hollow, and beneath it all a single emotion shining through: love. The relay screamed as power overloaded. Circuits melted, metal tore. The entire city grid went dark. For the first time in decades, future Earth fell silent. Lyra's light began to fade. She turned her head slightly, resting it against his chest. "It's done," she whispered. "They can't track anyone now. Humans, synthetics, hybrids, all free." He felt his throat tighten. "Then stay with me, please." Her lips curved into the faintest smile. "Wish I could, soldier boy, but I wasn't built to last forever." Her hand lifted weakly to his cheek, fingers trembling. "Promise me something?" "Anything. Don't let them make you hate again." And with that, the light went out. The room fell into darkness. Only the faint glow of the relay core remained, and the sound of Jace's ragged breathing. He knelt there, holding what was left of her, a shell of luminous dust slipping through his fingers. Above them, alarms faded into static. The war was over, but so was she. He looked up at the ceiling, voice breaking. "You win, Lyra, I'll remember." Then, just as he stood to leave, the relay core flickered once more. A faint holographic image shimmered into existence, Lyra's voice echoing through the dark. The relay chamber was a grave of silence, lit only by the ghostly pulse of the dying core. Jace stood there, his armor cracked, his pulse screaming in his ears. And her, voice still echoing through the static. "Energy never really dies." He stared at the hologram, faint, flickering, like a candle in a storm. "Lyra," he whispered, stepping closer. The projection shimmered, forming her face, soft, broken, beautiful in its fragility. "Hey, human," she said, her voice glitching with digital static. "Told you I was hard to kill." Jace laughed under his breath, half sob, half relief. "You scared the hell out of me." "I do that," she teased weakly. "Always had a thing for dramatic exits." Her form wavered, the relay's circuits struggling to hold her data together. He took a step closer, wanting to reach out but knowing he couldn't touch light. What are you now? Are you alive? She tilted her head, thinking. I'm everywhere. The relay network's mine now. Every comm line, every drone, every system that once hunted me, I can feel it all. I'm free, Jace, but I'm not what I was. He swallowed hard, his throat dry. Can you come back? I mean, into a body? Her eyes softened. Maybe someday, not now. The world's not ready for what I am. He looked around the ruined chamber. The power grid was fried. The soldiers had retreated and above ground. Future Earth would be in blackout, maybe for the first time in a century. You did it, he murmured. You gave them all a chance. She smiled faintly. No, we did. You made me believe there was more to life than survival. Jace wiped at his face, leaving streaks of grime and tears. What the hell am I supposed to do without you? Her voice softened to a whisper, more human than ever. Live, soldier boy. For both of us. Go find the world I dreamed of. He shook his head. That world doesn't exist. Then build it, she said, her glow fading. And when you see a sunrise, think of me. I'll be in the light. The projection shimmered. One last spark before fading into the darkness. The relay core went cold. Jace stood there for a long time, alone but not empty. Something in him had changed, a weight lifted, replaced by purpose. He slung his rifle over his shoulder and climbed out of the ruined bunker. Above ground, the city was dark. No neon, no drones, no surveillance. Just the quiet hum of wind over steel. The horizon glowed with the faint blush of dawn, sunlight breaking through the smog. For the first time in years, he could see the sky. He took off his helmet, let the cold air hit his face, and smiled faintly. Guess you were right, Lyra, he murmured. We'd have made beautiful children. He turned and walked toward the rising sun, the faint hum of static whispering through his earpiece, her voice soft as wind. I'm still here, human. Jace paused, smiled through his tears, and whispered back, Yeah, I know. Then he walked into the light.